Hey guys, so today I'm going to go over how we breathe. And this obviously is something that is very simple that many of us have overcomplicated or have totally disregarded as a significant consideration for our function, our athleticism, and especially our pregnancy and postpartum recovery. So why does it matter? So our breathing strategy, our breath tendencies, is what controls our entire core system. And this matters when we're pregnant and our entire structure is changing as we grow a baby, and then postpartum as we are healing in places that took a really big hit by growing a baby and delivering that baby, no matter how the baby came out. So the diaphragm here, it's your breathing muscle. It lives right behind your rib cage. On inhale, it descends down, and the pelvic floor here has to expand to make room for that diaphragm, that trajectory. And it's not just the pelvic floor that has to make room. Our abs have to let go and expand horizontally in order to give our organs, and if we're pregnant, have a little bit more space to go through that exertion. So it really is just like a lengthening cycle. So on inhale, again, diaphragm descends down, pelvic floor and abs expand to make room for that. It's called like letting your belly go or letting everything just relax. And then on exhale, the pelvic floor recoils in response to that diaphragm traveling right back up under the rib cage. So inhale, diaphragm travels downward, pelvic floor expands to make room, and on exhale, diaphragm travels back up and the pelvic floor recoils. Now, this is our naturally occurring physiology. This is nothing revolutionary. It's just something that does get affected when we are when we have developed different habits and when we have different training tendencies and when we are growing or recovering from having a child. So when you think about your moving and your breathing, how much tension do you do? What are your habits? Like where does your pressure go? So on inhale, if you're really and you really just breathe into your chest a lot, what impact does that have on your core and pelvic health? If you're constantly standing like this, what position does that put your pelvic floor in, and what does that mean for the trajectory of that diaphragm? You may not have as good of a connection as you want, especially when you are in a more vulnerable chapter like pregnancy or recovering postpartum. So in order to optimize that breath and that connection of our whole system, we have to be aware of our positional tendencies, our pressure tendencies, and our tension tendencies. What does that mean? If I take an inhale, where's my air going? Is it going out or is it going down below into my pelvic floor? And you can feel that. Feel like when you inhale, does it go here? Are you more inclined to bear down into your pelvic floor? You can also feel the same on exhale. If I'm gonna inhale and then exhale, where's that air going? Is it going downward? Is it going out into my linea alba? The goal is to take the pressure up and away, okay? So on that inhale, we try to expand into our rib cage versus just our shoulders. So breathe in wide, and then exhale, think about drawing the air out. Now, this is not gonna be perfect. This is something that we can create awareness around so that it can build to something we don't have to think about. It can be an automatic function, which breathing is an automatic function, but being a little bit more intentional and aware of our breath tendencies and how it affects our core and pelvic health function. During pregnancy and postpartum, this is a really good time to be considerate and aware of what our breathing tendencies are. So with that, you can put this into your movement patterns. That is not just exercise, but also your daily habits. How are you carrying your child? How are you, if you're baby wearing, how are you holding them? If you're lifting their stroller, how are you lifting them? If your tendency over and over and over is to hold your breath and then we're bearing pressure down or we're pushing it out, we could potentially be aggravating an already established diastasis that we have in pregnancy, or one that's trying to heal postpartum. You might also be contributing to some pelvic floor symptoms. So creating that awareness over something as simple as just how you breathe, stand, and move can have a really big carryover into your healing postpartum and into your management and controlling the things that you can during pregnancy, which we know pregnancy has so many different variables, but this might be one that you can have a little bit of more awareness around. So if we're not just talking about lifting our kids and we're talking about exercise, it's playing around with different breathing strategies. Maybe for you, exhaling through the full range of motion makes you feel like there's a little bit more support. That recoil of that pelvic floor on that exhale, that's what provides a little bit more stability and strength from our bottom up. If our base is strong, everything else has the ability to build off of that. Okay, so that inhale, diaphragm descends and we relax here. That's lessening the amount of tension that we're holding all the time if we're sucking in, gripping our pelvic floor and gripping our glutes. So by allowing our belly and our breath to just really get a good inhale where the tension is released, and then exhale, we're bringing that pressure and that air away, and that slight pelvic floor recoil that we're gonna be intentional with at first, almost like doing a Kegel with our exhale. But again, that is a temporary strategy that will lead into an automatic function because that is what our physiology is designed to do. So it's an exhale prior to the exertion. If we think of this in terms of something as simple as a squat, won't be able to back up too much here, but I can either exhale through the full range of motion so that I feel supported in my core and a little bit more supported in the base of my pelvic floor here through that full range of motion. So that would look like this, an inhale and then an exhale. And I should feel my abs contract a little bit with that gentle support of my pelvic floor. And I'm talking like a 2 out of 10 contraction, not like a grip everything and try to like really hold this strong contraction on my exhale. It's just a gentle level of awareness of a part of our body that we have not been trained to really be aware of when we move and do anything. Nevertheless, when we are growing a baby or recovering from growing a baby. Another way to implement this breath into your movement is to make it a little bit more dynamic, where if I'm doing a squat, again, for example, I can inhale down and then I exhale before I start my ascent, right? So it's an inhale, I exhale, pelvic floor recoils, I can feel my abs kind of draw in and stand up. Now, being aware of this at first is a lot different than having to be neurotic about how you're breathing and recruiting and not whatever for the rest of your life. That is not the goal. The goal is to create awareness. It's a neuromuscular strategy, which means we want it to happen without you having to think about it, because you've trained and practiced and created that awareness during these vulnerable chapters, and it'll help set up your recovery and any symptoms that you might be managing through pregnancy and postpartum, and honestly for the rest of your life. Having this new level of awareness about what your tendencies are, what your basic physiology does, what it really looks like, and what your habits are about where your pressure goes, what your tendencies are with your pelvic floor, with your breathing, with the amount of tension that you create when you lift and talk and move and mom. All of these different things do matter. And if you're symptomatic, I can't say this enough, please go to a pelvic floor physical therapist so they can help guide this breathing strategy so that you understand how the core system all works together and how it can support your pregnancy, support your recovery postpartum, help you manage your symptoms, hopefully heal from your symptoms, and keep your fitness, athleticism, performance, all of these things, and most importantly, your function, something that you can feel really confident with moving forward through all chapters of your life.